Hello there. There's a really good article in The Guardian today written by Felicity Lawrence, who did that exceptionally good article back in July. The title of the article, I'll read through it. I hope that's not too irritating for me to read through it. I know you can read it yourselves, but I might make a few comments en route. But I wanted to share the article in case, a link to it, I'll put a link below. I wanted to share that in case people haven't seen it or don't get round to seeing it. And regarding this letter that's being sent to Keir Starmer from nurses, retired nurses, or people that are not practicing, other healthcare professionals of all kinds, apparently that's getting quite a lot of signatures now. But I understand that you can sign it, as it were, and then it ends up potentially being seen as a list, but your name would be kept confidential. And the link I put up was it's the Science on Trial link. That's who's hosting this letter, and it was the one I read in the video from yesterday, was it? I'm forgetting the days. But back to this Guardian article, which has just come out today, 27th of August at 6 o'clock on the online Guardian, so perhaps it will be in the newspaper tomorrow, in the physical paper. It's titled Lucy Letby Inquiry Should Be Postponed or Changed, Experts Say. That's the Thirlwall Inquiry they're talking about, which is due to start on the 10th of September. The subheading is Group including neonatal experts and statistics professors question its setup amid concerns about conviction. So I'll just read it through. A group including some of the UK's leading neonatal experts and professors of statistics is calling on the government to postpone or change the terms of a public inquiry over concerns about the conviction of the neonatal nurse Lucy Letby. In a private letter to ministers, seen by The Guardian, the 24 experts said they were concerned that the inquiry's narrow terms could prevent lessons being learned about, quote, possible negligent deaths that were presumed to be murders, close quote, in the neonatal ward of the Countess of Chester Hospital, COC, that's the initials they're using for that, Countess of Chester. The public inquiry, led by Lady Justice Thirlwall, was set up last September after Lucy Letby was found guilty of the murder of 7 babies and the attempted murder of 6 others at the hospital. The inquiry was adjourned until after Lucy Letby's retrial on a charge on which the original jury had been unable to reach a verdict. That trial, which concluded in July of this year, resulted in her being found guilty of the attempted murder of another baby. 4 judges have refused Lucy Letby leave to appeal the first verdicts. An application to appeal the later verdict is understood to be pending. So that's confirmation of something I'd heard, but it's obviously been confirmed here that the verdict in the July trial, in the June trial, this 2024 trial, they have lodged an application to appeal that. So that's interesting, and that's good to know. It goes on to say, this article, despite the convictions and Court of Appeal ruling, there has been a small but growing number of experts raising concerns about the evidence presented at trial. Several came forward in an article published by The Guardian in July. That's that really good article by Felicity Lawrence again, expressing concerns that Lucy Letby's conviction was unsafe. Only 7 of the 24 signatories of the letter, which was sent last month to the Health Secretary Wes Streeting and the Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood, are experts who have previously spoken publicly about their concerns. So there's a lot more. There's a good number of more names of people, of experts coming forward and wanting to add their voices to this. That in addition to those who have already spoken publicly. So only 7 of the 24. So that's another. What's that? 17 others then, yeah. 17 other ones. The other signatories, they've got some names here. The other signatories are voicing their concerns formally for the first time. They include Dr. Tariq Ali, the former head of the Paediatric Critical Care Unit at Oxford University Hospitals. Well, that's pretty impressive, isn't it? And Philip Dawid, that's spelled D-A-W-I-D, Dawid, an emeritus professor of statistics at the University of Cambridge. Others raising questions about the Lucy Letby case include Jane Hutton, a professor of statistics at the University of Warwick, Professor Gillian Tully, a leading expert in forensic science, and Dr. Neil Ayton, a consultant neonatologist, who is also a medical expert witness with more than 2 decades' experience. Gosh. Describing themselves as, quote, a diverse group of doctors, nurses and scientists who have independently examined the Lucy Letby case, they stress they were, quote, not associated with Ms. Letby or her defence, nor are we driven by emotional reactions to the case, they say. Our approach is rooted in scientific analysis and concern for systemic issues within healthcare and the justice system. The quote goes on, while we acknowledge the gravity of the convictions against Ms. Letby, our focus is on the broader implications for patient safety, healthcare management, and the potential for miscarriages of justice in complex medical cases. We believe that legal systems are particularly vulnerable to errors when dealing with intricate scientific evidence. Sorry, I'm stumbling quite a bit today, a bit tired. I'll read that again. We believe that legal systems are particularly vulnerable to errors when dealing with intricate scientific evidence, especially in cases involving statistical anomalies in healthcare settings and the complex physiology of neonates. Taking issue with one strand of the Thirlwall Inquiry, which relates directly to Lucy Letby, they said the natural assumption following the convictions that she was a murderer may lead to, quote, a failure in understanding and examining alternative, potentially complex causes for the deaths, thus missing important lessons. Possible negligent deaths that were presumed to be murders could result in an incomplete investigation of the management response to the crisis. The Thirlwall Inquiry's main hearings are due to begin in Liverpool on the 10th of September. Its remit includes examining whether the COC, Cancer Chester, management should have done more earlier to prevent Lucy Letby killing babies on its neonatal unit. I'm putting that in quotes in my head, but that's what it says here. Anyway, that's what it was set up to do, this inquiry. The letter. So this letter from all these experts makes 2 proposals. The first is a temporary pause in the public inquiry. That sounds like a good idea to me. Quote, to allow for further investigation and to hear wider professional concerns. Absolutely, it's absolutely necessary to do that. The second is to change its terms of reference to enable, quote, a broader examination of potential factors contributing to the increased neonatal deaths without the presumption of criminal intent. Exactly. Yes, it's kind of what should have happened in the first place, isn't it? There shouldn't have been a police inquiry. There should have been a proper investigation into what happened. It's almost as though this is what they're asking for now is what should have happened, and there shouldn't have been any kind of police inquiry. There should have been an overall inquiry requested by that trust, perhaps for somebody else to do it, a group of, relevantly qualified people to do that at that time, after they'd gone back down to a level 1 unit, to say, well, what went wrong here? We need to look at everything. But they went the other route, didn't they, because of certain individuals pushing that, and for all the reasons we've talked about for over a year now. So, to talk about what's happened to each of those babies that sadly died or had sudden health deteriorations, also known as crashes, without the presumption of criminal intent. Exactly. Next paragraph. The lead signatories of the letter are Dr. Svitlana Dimitrova, who appeared, well, you didn't see her face, but you could hear her voice. She appeared in the Channel 5 documentary recently, a specialist neonatal advisor, she is, to the Care Quality Commission, CQC, and member of the independent Ockenden Review into mother and baby deaths at Nottingham University hospitals. And the other lead signatory is our own Peter Elston. Peter Elston, who's a fellow of the Royal Statistical Society, who questioned the analysis of shift data on which the prosecution depended before the trial began in October 2022. And that's great. And Peter Elston is one of the two people alongside Dr. McConville that did the long-running series of podcasts called We Need to Talk About Lucy Letby. And Dr. McConville has gone on to do further podcasts on his own, individual podcasts. And of course, in just interjecting here in relation to the analysis of shift data, obviously Professor Richard Gill has done a huge amount there, and as has Dr. Scott McLachlan in various of his substacks, again going back over a year ago. And there'll be others as well, of course, other people. Okay, the letter adds, quote, the letter adds, we emphasise that our goal is not to relitigate the Lucy Letby case. Yeah, it's quite canny what they're doing. They're saying, well, we're not doing that, but because to do that we need to go through the justice system. We're going to try to do this in a way that we can actually question it, every aspect of it, but we're not doing it through a legal route. We're doing it through a scientific and analytical route, which it will get to the same place, which will be the full realisation for everyone that this has been a terrible miscarriage of justice. So we emphasise our goal is not to relitigate the Lucy Letby case, the letter says, but to ensure that Thirlwall Inquiry is positioned to conduct the most thorough and beneficial investigation possible for the future of neonatal care in the UK. And this kind of ties into this other letter is to be going to Keir Starmer, signed by healthcare professionals, nurses, retired and active, and those taking pauses, which could run into hopefully thousands of signatories, I hope. Certainly are quite a number of people signing it, we hear. And that was the subject of the video yesterday. As you can see, it's all beginning to join together, the way that it's all being approached here, which is really good. It's kind of taking it outside of this very, I believe, wholly corrupt criminal justice system, and by design, limited by design to stop miscarriages of justice being overturned if they can possibly help it. But that's another thing. I won't go over that again here. Other signatories include Professor Peter Green, a former president of the Royal Statistical Society. Also, Dr. Neela Shabdi, a consultant paediatrician and former clinical director of child health for North East England. And then there's also Jenny Harris, an experienced neonatal intensive care nurse, and Professor Stephen Sen, formerly the head of health statistics at the University of Glasgow. There's so many different people, so many different disciplines here, which is fantastic. The letter says there were a further 7 neonatal and paediatric consultants, 2 advanced neonatal nurse practitioners, and 2 neonatal nurses who shared their concerns but wished to remain anonymous over fears of repercussions. And that's saying a lot as well, isn't it? The fears of repercussions. And another reason why nobody from that might have spoke for Lucy professionally, colleagues, didn't go there because they were warned off, weren't they, by the trust. We've talked about that, or I've talked about that in other videos. It's been talked about in the press, I should say, and I've just mentioned it. Okay, the intervention comes as fresh questions have been raised about the accuracy of the evidence presented at Lucy Letby's trials. The Crown Prosecution Service confirmed last week that the door swipe data from the Countess of Chester Hospital relied on by the prosecution to show that Lucy Letby had been alone when babies collapsed was incorrect. Interesting, they put babies in plural there. I wonder if they know something specific about very specific other charges on that indictment sheet, when they put it as a plural there, because obviously it came up very pertinently in relation to the retrial of the attempted murder of baby K, but they put it in plural there, which is interesting. So it's saying it's incorrect, potentially for all of them then. Police had wrongly thought that the swipe data showed nurses leaving the neonatal unit and going into the labour ward, when in fact they were returning to the neonatal unit. Just want to interject there, I've done a Freedom of Information request, as I may have mentioned before, but I did mention it, in terms of what is the nature of these doors. Are they swipe in and swipe out? Or in the case of that door from neonatal into labour ward, is it just a swipe into the neonatal ward and a button on the other side to go into the labour ward, or is it a two-way swipe? If it's a two-way swipe in that instance, then it's not only the case that it would be incorrect both ways. In other words, what came up in the retrial of baby K case is that they said a nurse left the neonatal ward at a certain time, but in fact it was them coming back in. Have they also used data where they presumed somebody was coming in, but in fact it was them leaving as well? And as mentioned before, in terms of the door swipe data, it's not necessarily the person themselves, it's the card, isn't it? And you've got the issue that some people have mentioned who work in hospitals. Well, I have myself, actually, a long time ago, but you can have a card and then you can be walking down a corridor with someone else with a card, and they're not going to close the door in behind themselves and not let you in. Two people go in, or maybe even more than 2 people go in on the one card, won't they? And also leave on the one card. So we've got these 5 doors based on this plan that was produced in April 2019, that I put on the screen in a previous video. There's 5 doors there. Which of them are two-way swipe, if any, and which of them are one-way swipe? And there's one that's actually seemingly kept open, which is this one to the stairs and the fire escape, or where there's a CCTV camera. That's one of the 5. Anyway, just waiting to get some Freedom of Information response from that in terms of what was the nature of those doors. Because if the CPS stroke police, if the police inquiry have got, if it's a two-way swipe, if it's wrong one way round, it's going to be wrong the other way round. Is it not? Is it not? That would seem likely, wouldn't it? if it is a two-way swipe. In Lucy Letby's retrial for the attempted murder of baby Kay, the prosecution corrected the error. Yeah, and Dr. Jayaram then just changed his times, and then, but even that didn't work. So, but they still pushed it through with the guilty because, well, the judge said you can use Goss. The judge said you can take into account all the other convictions. So, anyway, we've been through that. Been through that awful aspect of it, haven't we? In Lucy Letby's retrial for the attempted murder of baby Kay, the prosecution corrected the error, undermining their original assertion that Lucy Letby had been alone for one incident, when in fact another nurse on duty in the same room as Lucy Letby had returned. That was Nurse Williams, wasn't it? Joanne Williams, I think, Nurse Williams. The CPS has declined. The CPS has declined to comment on the swipe data in the first trial. Yeah, they would, wouldn't they? That's where you've got David Davis has been in touch with them. I'll just keep mentioning these things again. He's wanting a very, very stringent and definite answer from them as to how these quote-unquote errors may have affected the other charges and subsequent convictions on the indictment from last year, for the big trial last year. A government spokesman is coming to the end now, which is a bit of a, I suppose you might not, it's a bit of, not a downer, but it's a bit cold water at the end here. Not from the writer of the article, but from the government spokesman. It says here, government spokesperson said the inquiry would provide opportunities to learn from events at the Countess of Chester Hospital. Quote, this was a horrendous case and there were clear failings across the NHS and with regulators. The inquiry will review all aspects of the case, and the terms of reference were agreed following wide-ranging engagement with its chair, the families affected and other stakeholders, including NHS England. That's kind of saying we're going to do what we were going to do irrespective of what's been happening in the last few months in terms of all these reports and all these experts coming forward and all these people coming forward with new information. That's what it sounds like, doesn't it? But maybe they don't know what else to say yet. Maybe they're just kind of a bit of a holding position, but they're kind of implying that, well, we're going to carry on regardless type of thing, you know. But as it's being reported here, I don't think they can't be unaware, they can't be innocent of it, can they? They can't be unaware of it, and they're going to be receiving these formal letters that are seeking to influence them, and getting them, as they say, to pause it, and then really to work out what the terms of this inquiry should actually be. And to, as I think is a very good way to put it, is to remove the idea of deliberate, that there was deliberate criminal intent there. That's what should have happened. There should never have been an inquiry focused on criminal intent. It should have been an inquiry to find out what happened to those babies originally, individually and then collectively, back in 2017. And, there should, inquests. So what about inquests? They could have had those, coronial inquests. So, anyway, I think that's it. There's a final little bit at the end, which is a bit of a same sort of vibe, really. A spokesperson for the inquiry said hearings would begin as planned on the 10th of September and, quote, will follow the terms of reference set by the Secretary of State. So it's one of those formal answers that isn't really an answer about anything. It's just trying to shut down any questioning about it, isn't it, really? We're just going to do what we said we were going to do. I hope that behind the scenes, that's just the front that they're putting on there, because perhaps they're weighing up. I've got a sense that the establishment as a whole, it's just my intuition, my personal feeling, of course, that these aspects of the establishment and these institutions, the criminal justice system as a whole, knows they've done something terrible here. and they're trying to work out how do we get out of this with the least effect on the least number of perhaps individuals. Well, kind of who do we blame for it, really? How do we get out of this? How do we get out of this mess? I think they know which way this is going to have to go. They know it's not going to die down. It's not going to stop, and they just won't be able to plug their ears, or shut their eyes to it. They won't. It's growing, and it's going to continue until something is properly done about this. It doesn't have to be through the justice system. It could be through, as per the what they did with the post office scandal. Just take it. I think it's swerve if you can. Swerve the CCRC if you can. Totally not fit for purpose. Ghastly organisation that's crap by design, I think. Swerve all that. And the so-called justice system as well, and just actually get a proper inquiry and then quash the convictions. That's what they should do. And any decent system would do that. But it's not a decent system, and it wants to protect itself, and it wants to protect all the people that are implicated in this. That's what it wants to do. But it's too out in the open now. It's too big, and too many people are saying there's something. Even people that are new to it, in terms of detail, they're saying there's something terribly wrong here. There's something wrong here. I'm seeing it on Twitter. I know Twitter isn't the whole world, but I'm seeing hundreds and hundreds of people that I've never seen before making comments about it. Just feels wrong. It's the whole thing, and they may not have looked into it in much detail, but they can sense that it's wrong. And perhaps they've always felt that, and they've just kept it to themselves and didn't want to be the only person in their sort of friendship group or network of people they work with, especially people working in healthcare and in the legal setting. They want to, often they're going to be a bit more careful, but more people are coming out. So that's it. I think this is a really good article from Felicity Lawrence in The Guardian, and with a list of all those people from all those different disciplines. I think that's great. I think I'll leave it there. Thanks very much for listening. Sorry if I've been a bit stumbling a bit today, but take care. All the best. Bye-bye.